Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain. This is Sean Hershey, and I am so glad you are here to join me today. Today, we are talking about if you can't love yourself. Yes. So settle in, relax, whatever you're doing. Take a deep breath, because we are going to talk about if you can't love yourself. All right. Briefly, before we get into that, I want to say, as you know, I am a therapist, and if you are interested in weekly individual psychotherapy, please feel free to reach out to me. I would be happy to meet you, and I'd be happy to work with you. You can contact me at SeanHershey.com or MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com. They both go to the same place, and you can easily contact me there. The other thing is, this is coming up very soon, starting February 24th. We are starting a group, a TMS treatment and support group. I'm facilitating this group out of Christina Sarno-Horner's practice. It starts Tuesday, February 24th. Every Tuesday, 5 o'clock to 6:15 Eastern Standard Time. It is virtual, so you can access it from anywhere. The cost is $65 a session. We would absolutely love to have you in the group. There's a couple open spots, and we would absolutely love to have you. Okay, so if your healing has been in your own hands for a while and you're needing some support and needing some help, by all means, reach out for some help and for some support, because it is there. All right. Today, relationships are hard. Period. You know this. Relationships are hard. And I want to normalize that for you. If you're thinking that that means there's something wrong with you, no. Relationships are hard. Sue Johnson, the creator of EFT, that's emotionally focused therapy for couples. Sue Johnson, emotionally focused therapy studies show EFT has the best results of any clinical couples intervention by far. It is like top of the line. Many therapists are trained, couples therapists are trained in this. Is considered the best couples intervention, emotionally focused therapy. It was developed by Dr. Sue Johnson. She said, this is like the expert on relationships and relational stuff. She said herself, her family keeps her humble. Sue Johnson found relationships hard enough that she had to say, my family keeps me humble. Relationships are hard for all of us, even for the people who know the most about it and are the best at figuring it out. It is hard. Relationships are hard for all of us. Okay, so just to go a little deeper on that, EFT, such a great intervention. There's two excellent books I would recommend by Dr. Sue Johnson: Hold Me Tight and Love Sense. My favorite part about EFT, emotionally focused therapy, Sue Johnson says people think that couples fight about content issues like the dishes or sex or money, but that's not really true. What she says the fights that matter, the fights that end relationships, the fights that break couples, the fights that really matter are only ever about one thing ever. And that one thing is, are you there for me? Are you there for me? It's always, 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 always about attachment. And that is a great way to get into a conversation about relationships and if you can't love yourself. Attachment is our core need. Like Gabor Mate teaches, our core needs are attachment and authenticity. And when we have to pick one over the other, in childhood, the human brain will pick attachment over authenticity every time. That is how the human brain works. That is what we will do. We choose attachment first. Attachment is our core need. Um, and that is just one part of why I'm like, fuck Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like that shit, when are we gonna put that shit away? Like, that is so dumb. Um, according to according to Maslow, uh, the needs build off each other, and like the lower needs need to be met before the higher needs can be met. And so, according to Maslow, like employment, for example, is a more basic need than friendship, family, intimacy, and sense of connection. I'm like, what? Like, why do people teach this model? That is just not true. Not true. Also, according to Maslow, like you have to have food, clothing, and employment, emphasis on employment, before you can experience creativity. That's insane. I mean, it's just literally obviously wrong. Obviously wrong. Like, remember when you learned about basic psychology and you learned that penis envy was wrong? Yes, I am telling you right now that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is wrong. So now you know. Question the stupid shit. Now you know. Of course, like, yes, food, clothing, and shelter, those are primary needs. Like, yes, that is obvious. I mean, it's not like everything that Maslow's hierarchy of needs makes some good points, but some of that shit is really stupid. Clothing, shelter, food, primary needs. And attachment is as well. Okay? Attachment is a primary need. Oh, what is a baby without a caregiver? Do you know? What is a baby without a caregiver? We learned this in social work school. A baby without a caregiver is dead. Yeah, I know that's like harsh and kind of rough, but am I wrong? A baby without a caregiver is dead. Attachment is a primary need. What are the meaningful fights between couples always about? Are you there for me? It's the same thing. A baby needs a caregiver, and an adult in a partnership needs someone who is there for them. Attachment, attachment, attachment. It is about attachment. Attachment is a primary need. Okay. The title of this episode, the famous RuPaul quote. Those of you who know, I'm not a drag race gay, but like certainly I've seen it enough to understand the basics. RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm gonna sound like such a white boy, but I want to quote her correctly. RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell you gonna love somebody else? Do I sound white enough for you? Oh, actually, okay, this is a good place for a brief aside to talk about something that I learned in college, not from a teacher, but from a friend, Dominique. I still remember this when you when we talked about this and you shared this with me. Um, I'm like, how do I even talk about this? There are different dialects of English used in the United States. I feel like people sort of like talk around that and pretend that that's like not the case, but that is the case. Like we speak in many different dialects in this country. Um, and one is, of course, like you could call it African American Vernacular English, AAVE. Um, when I was young, in a very white environment, we would read books that were sort of written in African American vernacular English, or parts would be written in African American vernacular English. And we definitely learned, like, this is not the way to talk, this is not the way to write, this is not proper English. Like, we were definitely taught like that. While that may be in the book, it is not proper English. And I know for a fact that a lot of people internalize the idea that of different dialects of the English language used in the United States of America. African American vernacular English is like a quote unquote dumbed down version of standard American English. And I just want to take a moment to say that that is not true. I know I learned this in college. Um, there are many ways in which African American vernacular English is actually more complex than and complex and harder to master than standard American English. And even calling it standard American English is kind of like what is the standard? I don't that's such a I think that even is a misnomer, standard American English, but it's also you can't really call it white American English because people of many races speak, the way that I speak and the way that I'm speaking right now. So I'm calling it standard American English, the way that I talk with quotations around it, knowing that like standard, what is the standard? But let me say one example. Um, okay, so in African American vernacular English, you would say I am like a person and I be doing this. Like I be washing the dishes, I be watching TV. Um, and a white person who grew up in my social status would certainly just learn like that is the wrong way to speak. Like I be no. Eh, red cross out am would be the correct way to quote unquote correct way to say that. But what I learned is that actually those words in African American vernacular English have two different meanings. I am refers to a state of like constant, like a constant state of being. Like I am a gay man, for example. I be refers to something that you are doing momentarily. So like I be watching TV, I be recording a podcast right now. And in that way, it is definitely more complex than quote unquote standard English because we would just use am for I am doing this and I am this kind of person. We would just use am for both and not make the differentiation and not bother about the differentiation of like, is it something that is a forever characteristic of you or is it something you're just doing right now? And I will say, when I took Spanish class in high school, in the Spanish language, they make that differentiation between I am and I be. But what they in Spanish should be like ser versus a star. So the verb ser being like, to be is a state of soy uh, de Minnesota, for example. I am from Minnesota. That is something that would not change. That is part of who I am. A star is like something you're doing right now. Like how are you? Estoy bien. I am good now, but I may not be good forever. Things change. And when I was in Spanish class, how sometimes you just get lucky with certain concepts and they just land in your brain. Sir versus a star just landed for me, and I was like, I get it. I get the difference between like something that I am and something that I am doing. I'm just like that just landed in my brain. For many people, it did not, and I get that because a lot of concepts do not just land in my brain. Um, and the struggles that we went through with quizzes after quizzes of like, "I'll never get Sarah versus a star." All the kids in the class, like, clamoring to the teacher, "What? This is Sarah, not a star? What do you mean? This is so confusing." And I just wanna say all of us little white kids who were taught quote unquote standard American English, this nuance of language we could not understand. And it was very hard for many of us because our language, turns out, in some ways, is a dumbed down version of African American vernacular English. So I just want to, long aside, but it's important to just speak the truth when you have the chance to speak the truth. So just saying. Bet you didn't know you were going to get that little factoid tuning into this podcast. Back to RuPaul. If you can't love yourself, how in the hell you gonna love somebody else? But you gotta quote this shit properly. You know what I mean? I don't want to whiteify these quotes just because I'm white. You gotta quote this shit properly. If you can't love yourself, Can you love somebody else? Right? That's our question for today. If you can't love yourself, can you love somebody else? Remember, relationships are hard. Sue Johnson says it. I say it. If relationships are hard for you, that makes sense. That makes you a regular human being. So I do not pretend to have all the answers, okay? Like I do not pretend that. Um, but I have some thoughts to share that I know will be helpful to you as we are answering this question. If you can't love yourself, can you love somebody else? All right. This framing of if you can't love yourself, then you can't love someone else. That is very common. You see that everywhere. Obviously, you see it in RuPaul's Drag Race. You see it. I mean, yeah, like you can't love another without loving yourself. You hear that. That is a common message we get in our culture. That lands with most people as I have got to love myself more. And that lands with most people as if I'm not in a relationship, it's because I don't love myself enough. And here's the key, that message lands with most people, the message of you can't love another without loving yourself. That lands with most people as this is my fault. It's my fault if I'm not in a relationship. It's my fault that I don't have a healthy relationship, whatever. It's my fault that I don't love myself. Okay. Is it your fault if you don't love yourself? Let me say, if it's hard for you to love yourself, you come by that honestly. Okay. If it's hard for you to love yourself, that is not your fault. I'm going to say this again because I want your brain taking this one in. If it's hard for you to love yourself, that is not your fault. Learning to love yourself will make your relationships with others better. It will. I would never say that RuPaul is wrong on this one. I would never say that. Learning to love yourself will make your relationships with others better. Being loved by others for who you truly are, like the true you being loved by others, that will make your relationship with yourself better. These things go hand in hand. Let me just go back because this is important. Learning to love yourself will make your relationships with others better. Also, being loved by others for who you truly are, that will make your relationship with yourself better. Both and these things go hand in hand. If it's hard for you to love yourself, that is not your fault. Where does self-love come from? Right? Okay, let's dig into this. Where does self-love come from? Identity development starts early childhood. Every human being comes into this world with their own temperament and with their own being, like their own personality. You came into this world with your own temperament and your own being and your own personality, your own potential, your own skills, your own like little seed and little bud that's going to grow. And we don't all know what it's going to grow into. But that's because human consciousness is limited. That seed is going to grow into something. That bud is going to germinate into something. You are a real person. That is a quote from Dr. Lindsay Gibson. You are a real person. You and me, we all come into this world as a real person with a real personality. Okay? We all naturally want to be that person and express our authentic selves. And identity development is I mean, yeah, of course, like, it starts in early childhood, but you don't really have to develop I mean, we develop a lot in terms of identity, But much of your identity is just there. It's not about developing it. And much of the work of chronic pain recovery is coming back home to who you really are, coming back to the identity that you really have. And so development is kind of I mean, language is so limited. Identity development, quote unquote development, is kind of a misnomer when it comes to like chronic pain healing, because it's like you're not really developing shit. You're developing the ability to get in touch with coming back. Get in touch with coming back to yourself, coming back to your authentic self. Okay. We naturally want to be that person. We naturally want to express and be our authentic selves. And our primary need, this takes us back to Gabor Mate. Our primary need is we come into the world with a need for attachment. All right, identity development in childhood, early childhood, etc. What if your primary attachment figures, your mom, your dad, your primary caregivers, what if they don't fully appreciate you for being you and for being who you are? What if? What if your primary attachment figures don't fully appreciate you for being you? There's actually a really simple answer to that. If your primary attachment figures don't fully appreciate you for who you are, you sacrifice your authenticity, repress who you really are, and you develop a personality around a role self that meets your needs for attachment. Period. It's that simple. I'm going to say that again because I'm like, that's really well said. Good job, Sean. If your primary attachment figures don't appreciate you for who you are, you sacrifice your authenticity, you repress who you really are, and you develop your personality around a role self that meets your needs for attachment. Boom. If your primary attachment figures don't fully appreciate you for who you are, yes, that is what happens. Your authenticity becomes sacrificed, and there's a lot that will be repressed. And everybody, everybody's identity develops a little bit differently. Some people in certain families are forced to repress one part of themselves. People in other families have to repress a different part of themselves. Some people in some families and some, systems, family systems, cultural systems have to repress a lot. Some have to repress a little. But this is very, very common. We will all sacrifice some authenticity for attachment. The question is, how much did you sacrifice and what did you sacrifice? And the answer is coming home to authenticity, coming home to yourself. Attachment research shows us we internalize the relationships with our early attachment figures. This is mom, dad, your life, your early attachment figures. Attachment research shows us we internalize the relationships with our early attachment figures as expectancies and strategies. Expectancies. I'm going to talk a little bit about that first. An expectancy means that you become used to and familiar with the way that your primary caregiver interacts with you. Therefore, you expect that that is how people will interact with you. Okay. So we go into if you're like, I can't trust my parent, then you will go forward in life with your brain wired in such a way that you expect not to be able to trust people. You see how that becomes internalized and generalized. It's not just your parent, it becomes generalized to like that's how people are. That's how relationships are. If you like what are some more examples? If you if you know that your parent does not want you to cry, your parent does not want you to show certain emotions, then you will come to expect that people don't want you to cry. People don't want you to show certain emotions. Those early experiences become our expectancies. Also, these then lead into strategies. So, how do you manage if you can't trust your parent? How do you manage? There's a lot of internal strategies you've gotta do. I mean, you've gotta probably a lot of self-reliance, a lot of, figuring things out on your own, not sharing much with your parent. I mean, you fill in the blanks. If you don't trust your parent, there's a lot of strategies that have to go into managing you. Similarly, if you can't be yourself, if you can't express your emotions, I mean, a core strategy there is gonna be emotional repression, and that, as you know, is a core part of developing chronic pain. Those strategies that you used in your early relationships, if you had to be overly self-reliant, if, you had to repress your emotions, if you had to repress who you really are, if you had to not talk about who you really are, not think about what you really want, not focus on what you really want, if those were the strategies you had to engage in your interpersonal relationships with your early caregivers, those will be the strategies that you expect to have to use with everyone, with people, and those will be the strategies that you will use with everyone, with people, until you do some work around it. You know what I mean? Till you open up the journal, till you get into some deep self-reflection, till you go to therapy. Like, those expectancies and strategies are strong, they're wired in, and if you're not thinking about it and consciously working to change it, they're not gonna change. The good news is they can change. With work and, like, with through therapy, through journaling, through making changes in your life, changes in your mindset, yes, these patterns can change. Okay, is it all your parents' fault? Is that what I'm saying? Am I saying, like, if you don't love yourself, is it all your parents' fault? I'm gonna say it goes way deeper than that. If your primary caregivers couldn't attune to you, like the real authentic you, that is probably because they had a really hard time attuning to themselves, the real authentic themselves. And that would be because they've been through their own relational misattunement, their own relational trauma, their own early childhood misattunement. And this shit is generational. It is hard to be human. It's also good to explore this for you. If as I'm talking about this, you're experiencing a lot of maybe anger towards your primary caregivers, like they fucked me up. Yeah, express that anger. Take that to your journal and keep going with it. Why do you think your parents were like this? What do you know about your grandparents? What do you know about the culture in which they grew up? Like, why? Why is this happening? And there's more to be angry at than just your primary caregiver. I'm not telling you not to be angry at your primary caregiver. If you're angry, fucking be angry. And take it further. Take it further because there's more to be angry at. There's more. You might have a lot to process around this, so take it to your journal, take it to a therapist, call me. If you want to take it to me, call me. Why is it hard for you to love yourself? Right? Like RuPaul says this with such confidence, like it's so easy. Why is it hard for you to love yourself? It's not your fault. Period. I wanna drill that in so hard because it's so important. It's not your fault. If you're like, "I can't love another because I can't love myself, and it's my fault for not loving myself," it's not your fault, period. So, if you think, "Wouldn't life be better if you just weren't like this? Wouldn't life be better if you just weren't so annoying? Wouldn't life be better if you had no needs? Wouldn't life be better if you weren't self centered? Wouldn't life be better if you didn't have sexual desires? Wouldn't life be better if you were maybe like good at everything you ever tried? Wouldn't life be better if you never failed at anything? If you never struggled with anything? Wouldn't life be better if you weren't so fucking irritating, so fucking tiresome, and so fucking inconvenient? Wouldn't life be better if you weren't like this? If you're thinking those things, those are the kinds of things that people think, like me, where we weren't properly attuned to fully. Okay? and you are who you are. Wouldn't life be better if you weren't like this? Okay, think that all you want. You are like this. You are exactly like this. Look down, feel into you, look in. This is you right here, right now. You listening to this right here, right now. This is exactly what you are like. You are exactly like this. So why can't you just love yourself? Right? Why can't you why can't you get rid of like the wouldn't life be better if I wasn't just so fucking irritating and inconvenient and Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me? Okay. Okay. If it's hard for you to love yourself, it's not your fault, right? And it is your responsibility to learn. It is your responsibility to learn to love yourself. Okay? Okay. So I want to tell a little story. One of my ex-boyfriends, the constant fight that we had, I wouldn't even call it fight. It was, because we didn't I'm not really a fighter like that, but the constant, like, disagreement, conversation, conflict that we always had was me being like, "Why don't you talk to me? Why don't you just talk to me?" And then it was, him being like, "Why do you need so much from me? Why can't you just can't you just like be a little more like independent? Like why are you on me all the time?" So we were in what is a classic attachment conflict where I was the anxious one seeking more. Why don't you talk to me? He was the avoidant one moving away. Like, why do you need so much from me? Lay off, be more independent. We were in a classic attachment struggle. And many people listening to this know that struggle. Like one partner is the why don't you talk to me partner, I want to be closer to you partner, and the other partner is the please back off partner. Okay. He once said to me, this is my ex-partner once said to me, what in the middle of like one of these conflicts that we were having. He once said to me, "Well, if you feel something is off, because here I am being like, this is not okay. Like we don't spend enough time together. You don't talk to me." And he was like, "Leave me alone. Why do you need so much from me?" But he did say, "Well, if you feel something is off, then something is off." Okay? I mean, this was many years ago. I was so touched by that validation. Like, even he's like, "Even though I'm not on your side of this argument, like, I get where I'm saying, like, 'Please back off,' and you're saying, like, 'Please give me more.'" He's like, "Even though I'm not agreeing with you, I will say, if you feel something is off in our relationship, then I can acknowledge something is off in our relationship." Truly, I was so touched by that validation. Um, and the reason I was so touched by that is my expectancies, this is going back to, like, attachment theory, like, our attachment relationships, early attachment relationships create our interpersonal attachment expectancies and strategies for, moving on in life. My expectancies were so low that I believed that him saying, like, "If you feel something is off, then something is off," I truly believed that that was, like, the kindest thing ever. Okay? So, I'm painting this example because I'm trying to show you what this looks like. That is a kind thing to say, right? Like, if you believe something's off, then something is off? Yeah, true. Thank you, ex-partner, for saying that to me, and still, yes, still to this day, I'm like, "Thank you. That's true, and that's great." And the fact that I found that to be so kind of like, um, heartwarmingly, deeply, heart-wrenchingly validating, I was settling for not enough. My, like, true self in there was really expecting so, little that I was settling for feeling that that was, like, deep validation. Is that validation? Yeah, for sure, and am I grateful to my partner for my ex-partner for saying that to me and really feeling that towards me? Yes, absolutely, and now now I know more about myself and more about what I really need and more about what real validation looks like. Now I know that, like, that's a nice thing, what he said, and I know that I need more, okay? I'm painting this picture for you because I think it's a good example of something that, like, that you might be able to apply to your own life. It's not like I was being abused by this ex-partner by any stretch. He was great, like, truly, truly, he was great. We were in an attachment issue and my expectancies for other people were so low, um, they like, you see how the issue is my issue? You know what I mean? It's not true, but it's more, I don't even know if I wanna say it's more complex. I just wanna say it's not your fault. It is not your fault if it's harder for you to love yourself. It's not your fault if you're, quote, unquote, "settling for scraps, settling for crumbs, fighting over crumbs." It's not your fault. If you're used to that and you expect that, um, you will have strategies that make that reality work for you, just like I had strategies that made that reality work for me. Hopefully, that example is helpful because what I really needed was a lot more than that. I really needed a lot more than that, and I'm also sure that I was coming at him pretty inauthentically because I didn't know myself, so I'm sure I seemed annoying as hell. Um, relationships are a two-way street. I would never paint myself in that relationship as like, I was good and he was bad because he was not bad and I was not good. We so it's always a two-way street. But this is one thing that is very important for me to know is that a little bit of validation is nice, but I need more. I need more. And now that I am able to validate myself more deeply than that, I can say to myself if I feel something is off, then something is off. Yeah, I can say that to myself, like, just on, like, a random Tuesday afternoon. That doesn't have to be like, "Oh my god, this is the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me." It's like, "No, no, no. This is baseline." Now that I'm at that point, I expect more from people, and I expect more from myself. Okay, my therapist at that time, Susan. Susan was so great. Like, Susan was like this, um, very much older than me. I was young at the time. I was in my 20s. Susan was much older. She had a really she was like an old school New Yorker, had, an office in her apartment. Her apartment was gorgeous. Susan was the best. I was talking about something, I don't remember what, but this is who Susan was. I was talking about something, and she said something like, "Say more about that." And my response was like, "Oh, I don't know." So she responds to me after I after I said, "Oh, I don't know." She responds to me immediately. I wouldn't say she was yelling, but she definitely raised her voice, and she responds to me by coming right in. She just says, "Oh, come on, just free associate." To which I was like, "Hell yeah." Like, this is the kind of therapist I want. Someone who's like an old woman who's ready to just yell across the room, "Oh, come on, just free associate." She was the fucking best. I really loved her. Um, so yeah, once Susan, basically yelled at me to come on, just free associate. Once Susan and I had this whole episode because, she really freaked out. There was a mouse in her office during the session. I was sitting on the couch and I didn't notice it, but Susan suddenly becomes like very tense and she was like, "Sean, I have to tell you, there's a mouse in this room. And it was like, oh shit. Then it was like all hell broke loose. You know, we were like, she like went to get mouse traps. I mean, it was a very funny moment of like therapist client role reversal. I mean, it was a home office. Like this was in her apartment. So she was much more freaked out than I was. And so I was like sort of taking care of her. I was like, okay, Susan, here, hand me the mouse traps. I'm going to set a couple down over here. All right, got it. I was very much like, it's going to be okay. like we got this. So there was a time where, yeah, there's a time where there was a mouse in her office. And okay, the reason I'm giving this background about Susan is because there was also the time. This was something that happened once with Susan. There was also the time when I was talking about this ex-partner and I was like, does he even love me? That was me. Does he even love me? And Susan, her response was, I can tell he does love you. And this is how he loves. So now it's up to you to decide if this kind of love feels okay for you or not. I was like, oh my God, Susan thinks I should break up with my boyfriend. And I was like freaked out by that statement. He and I were together for a long time, actually, after that. And then I finally ended up ending that relationship for the exact reason that Susan had called out like a long time ago. That was how he loved me at that time, and it was up to me to decide if that was okay or if it was not. And it was not. Like it didn't feel okay, and yet I expected little, and my strategy was to stay with it, and it took a long time to see beyond that. And truly, I was so freaked out. You know, I mean, you know, in therapy, it's like you meet the client where they're at, and you know, you validate and you challenge. And that statement, when Susan said that, that was very challenging. It was both validating and challenging because it was validating to the part of me that, like, you know, needed to be heard and seen. But it was also very challenging to my defenses, very challenging to my strategies, very challenging to my strategies. And I was really freaked out by that comment. But I think about that all the time because she was right. She was so right. She was so fucking right. And, I mean, I just wanna say, this was a long time ago. This ex-boyfriend was honestly a great person. Like, I highly endorse him. You know, this is where both he and I were at that time. I have grown since this time. I assume that he has grown since this time. I hope that for him. Um Either way, highly endorse this person. I would recommend him to future partners. I would literally write a letter of recommendation for him in a heartbeat. Great, great person. And I say that because, like, you know, I don't want people to get into this like extreme thinking, like, oh, Sean was in a bad relationship or Sean was being psychologically abused by this person. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Um, it just wasn't. Um, how would I even put it? If we go back to "Are you there for me?" The answer for both of us was no. Was he there for me in the ways that I needed a partner to be there for me? No. Was I there for him in the ways he needed? No. I was inauthentic. I was not in touch with my true self. I was, like, naggy and obnoxious, and of course he was like, "Lay off." Was I there for him? No. No. There was work for us to both do. Um Some people, I know your relationships are legit abusive. Yeah. Okay. I respect that. If you need to get out now, get out now. If you need to get out later, get out later. If you need to learn to love yourself, yeah, that's a good place to start. This is the work of shaking off the way other people treat you and not taking that as the strategy for how to treat yourself. Okay? We're shaking off the way that other people treat you, and we are not taking that as the strategy for how you should treat yourself. Okay. Relationships are hard, right? You know it. I know it. Dr. Sue Johnson, who's the expert, she knows it. This is how it is. Sacrificing yourself in order to feel attached to others may feel so normal to you. So normal, in fact, that you don't notice you're doing it. So normal that you don't know who you really are. That is me. That is many people with TMS. I mean, I'm crawling my way out of this, but that is hard. Like, it is hard. And I mean, I talk, and teach on this podcast all the time about tuning into your true self and being your true self and being kind to your true self. And I feel like people sort of think like, oh yeah, Sean must be great at that because he talks about it all the time and like teaches about it. And no. Like, it's a struggle. It is a total struggle. I think I'm good at teaching about it because it is a struggle for me, you know? And I do think I'm good at teaching about it. Am I good at doing it for myself? Sometimes. 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 That's the best I can say, sometimes. And that is many people with TMS. That is a pattern for people with chronic pain. We get so lost that we don't remember who we are. But our bodies are telling us something is not right. Our bodies are telling us something is not right. Danger, danger, danger. Something is not right. Existential level. Something is not right. And that something is that we are not being true to our true selves. We are afraid of being our true selves, and we're out of alignment with our true self. And we're putting our true self by engaging in, like, strategies that aren't helpful for the true self. We're putting our true selves in situations that are bad for us all the time, again and again and again and again. And the true self is screaming at you. Your true self is screaming at you existentially through your back pain, through your neck pain, through your shoulder pain, through your IBS, your pelvic pain, your skin conditions, your chronic fatigue, your long COVID, your neuropathy. You know, these symptoms are coming at you from a deeper, rawer, existential place. And it's you. Like, that's you. This is you speaking to you. And you have to learn to listen. How do you learn to love yourself? Well, that's a journey, but I can tell you an important part is learn to listen to your body. Listen to who you really are. Your body is who you really are, and your body's holding you. I would really encourage you not to blame yourself for being wrong. You're not wrong. You are right. The way you are right. And to go back to what my ex said to me, he was right. If you feel something is wrong, then something is wrong. You are right. If no one ever told you, like, the authentic, raw, real you, that you are right, just the way you are, if no one has ever told you that before or made you feel that way before, then it is time for you to tell yourself. Okay? Okay. The more that you have that kind of relationship with yourself, the more you come to upgrade your expectancies in relationships. And the more you come to upgrade your strategies in relationships. And when you're surrounded by people who really love and appreciate the real you, it is so much easier for you to love and appreciate the real you. If you can't love yourself, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault, but it's also not wrong that that's going to hold you back in relationships. Love yourself because it will make your relationships better. Let your authentic self be loved by others and expect that. Expect that that's possible. Know that that's possible. And when you feel that love from others, it will make it easier to love yourself. These things go together, they go hand in hand. It's time to do some work to learn who you are and learn how you got so lost, and then learn to come back home and learn to love who you really are. Okay, that's it for today. Take that to your journal. Take that to your therapist. This shit's deep. The attachment shit is deep, and you are healing. Okay. I will see you next week. If you're looking for a therapist, you found one. And you can decide, does my vibe resonate with you? Therapy is an opportunity. Therapy is an opportunity to tune into you, to learn to feel more comfortable being yourself, to feel more comfortable with your emotions, and to feel more comfortable existing in the world, in your body. So whatever you're struggling with, chronic pain or otherwise, the opportunity that therapy provides is an opportunity for profound healing. Do you have difficulties in your life? Do you want a therapist to help you? And would you like me to get to know you and to help you? If so, that is actually an option. You can find me at SeanHershey.com or MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com. Both go to the same place. And if you're looking for me, I would welcome a message from you. SeanHershey.com, MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com, and you can request a free consultation.